Hello, welcome back. This is Mike Smith with another tutorial in Maya. Following on from the Getting Started tutorial, I'm now going to show you how to make a basic round table with several legs with a decent amount of detail in each poly primitive. So, to begin with, make sure you've got your project folder set. Mine's set to a folder called Round Table. And before I start, I'm actually going to save my scene in there. It makes it easier so I can keep saving as I'm actually progressing. So File, Save Scene As. Make sure you're in your project folder, Round Table, and I'm going to call this Tabletop. So now, if I'm worried I'm going to be spending more time or I'm worried the computer might crash, I can simply go to File, Save every few minutes if I need to so I don't lose too much work. Now to begin with, I'm going to open the channel box, which is the icon in the very top right hand corner. Hold the mouse over it and it will tell you it's the channel box. And I'm going to open the outliner in Window and Outliner. I'm just going to put it down in the corner out of the way. This tabletop, I'm going to use a poly cylinder first of all. Press 5 to shade that. And I'm going to make sure it's in the center of the grid, so type in zeros in Translate X, Y and Z in your channel box. Okay, now in the outliner I'm going to call that Tabletop. Now we can have a look at a few more tools to actually put some detail in here, but first have a look at the divisions. There's 20 divisions. We don't want 20, we just want about 12. So if you remember from the last tutorial, in the channel box, click on Input Polycylinder 1, and we can reduce the divisions from 20 down to about 12. Now, to start putting detail in, if you right click on your object, we'll get another menu come up. And at the moment we're in object mode where we can select, move, rotate and scale an object. But we're going to look at edge, face and also vertex. Now edge, face and vertex, you can basically just choose different parts of your object. Edge mode, we can just select an edge. You can select more than one by holding shift if you want to. And we can use any of our basic tools, move, rotate and scale, and we can actually move those and we could start putting some detail in if we want to. I'm going to press Z here to undo that and go back. Face mode is the same. You can select one or more faces by holding shift and selecting whatever you want. But be careful not to simply highlight several, because you'll find if you do that, you'll actually select some on the other side of your object which you probably don't want. So make sure you just select one at a time, just take your time with it. To deselect all of them, just click outside of your object. And last of all, vertex mode. A vertice is where two or more edges meet, and you can select any one of those. If I go to my select tool, you'll see they highlight yellow when you've selected them. And hold shift to select multiple. Now like I said before, be careful not to just highlight them. If you do that, you'll find you'll actually select some on the other side by accident. So I've selected this one here by accident. And this is where you may want to switch from shaded to wireframe by pressing 4, just to have a quick look to see if there's anything else that's selected that you don't want. But to begin with, I've pressed 5 to go back into my shaded view. I'm going to right click and go back to object mode. Double check it's in the center of the grid by looking at your channel box. And I'm going to select all of the faces on the very top of this. So right click, face mode, select the one, and then shift and select the other ones. This is where it's easier to have fewer divisions because it's far quicker to select 12 than it is to select 20. Have a quick look underneath and around your object to make sure you haven't selected any more. Okay, and now we're going to look at the extrude tool. If I go to edit mesh at the top of the screen, before we can extrude, I just want to show you one thing, which is this bit here where it says keep faces together. Now, if that's not ticked, so if I click on that to untick it, go back to edit mesh and you'll see there's no tick there now. Before I click on extrude, I'm going to go to the option box next to that. And the reason why is because if you're in a college or a university, people are experimenting with this and they may have put in all different settings here. So before you start, just go to edit, reset settings on that tool, just to make sure it's back to the factory default settings. And we can close that now. Now go to edit mesh extrude. And you'll see you've got your move tool and a scale tool combined. If I simply move that up, it looks like it's all one piece, but where it wasn't ticked saying keep faces together, you'll find if I select one of these and go to the move tool, I can move it and it becomes completely detached. So these are all individual faces, and it can become quite confusing. You can see there it's actually gone through another object. We don't want to do that kind of thing. So if we go back, just press Z a few times to go right back. I'm going to go right back to the point where some of them aren't selected, so I know I've not clicked on extrude. Select those. Now if I go to edit mesh, click on keep faces together, then go back to edit mesh and extrude. Double check that tick is there. Now when I extrude these, I'm going to extrude up a bit, they're all one face. So if I select one of these and try and move them, you'll see it's all combined. Press Z to undo that. And I'm going to select those all again. And I'm now going to use my scale tool and scale from the center. I'm going to scale that in slightly, and I'm going to use my move tool to bring it down, just to give my table a bit more definition. Maybe I'll scale it out just a bit more. And I'm going to extrude once more, edit mesh extrude, and I'm going to go up just a little bit to give the table a bit more of a thickness on the top. Now click off the object to deselect. And looking at that, obviously it doesn't look very round because we've only got 12 divisions. That's not a problem, we can smooth that. If I right click and go back to object mode, select it, and I can press 3 to smooth it, and you'll find at first, when you smooth it, you lose all that detail we've just put in. That's not a problem yet either, because we can actually put in some more divisions to constrain that detail we've just made. So press 1 to unsmooth that. And now we can use a tool you'll use a lot with some basic modelling called the Insert Edge Loop tool. Go to Edit Mesh, Insert Edge Loop tool, and if I zoom in to one of these vertical edges on the side, if I click and hold the mouse button in on one of these vertical edges, I can put a division anywhere I like, and that loops around the entire object. You'll find if you go right down to the bottom or right to the top and let go, it disappears completely. You'll need to give yourself a small gap between the bottom and the top. So if I click and drag, near the bottom, I'm going to put an edge, and then near the top, I'll put one there. If I zoom in a little bit more, just to show you, you can see there's a slight gap between the original edge and my new division. And I'll also put one at the top here, and at the very top of my object. Now if you zoom out, because there's such a small gap, it doesn't look like there's another division in there. So you may have to zoom in quite a lot to make sure you've got these there when you're doing that, and then just zoom back out again. Now right click, go back to object mode. It's good practice to go back to your select tool, select your object, and then press 3 again to smooth that. And now you'll see it's actually constrained some of this detail. If I deselect my object, you'll see we've got a nice edge going around this. Okay, you'll find with the edge loop tool, if we look at this bottom edge here, it's sharp, but if you want it sharper, simply put another division in there. So click on that, press 1 to unsmooth it. If we zoom right in, go back to your edge loop tool, edit mesh, insert edge loop tool, and I'm going to put another one down here. Now when I smooth that, we should get a sharper edge at this bottom. So right click, go back to object mode, go to your select tool and select your object, and now smooth it. You get a much sharper edge around the bottom. And now we have a really basic tabletop. Okay, the next tutorial I'll show you how to make the table leg. I'll keep the tutorials quite short just so there's not too much to take in. But the next tutorial will make the table leg, and we'll actually duplicate that right the way around. Okay, so keep practicing, learn something new, and watch out for the next tutorial.